I understand that, and that is his basis as to why.
Like, you're trying to pervert and contort the law to go off of what? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're like, oh, it's possession. It's not simple possession. Donald Trump having the documents is not why he's being charged at all.
It's because he's not handing them back because he believes he shouldn't be. So it's going to go to court and it's going to do its thing.
It's because he willfully retained them.
Yes, and Joe Biden.
It's because they had to come kick his door in. Bubbles, what's up?
So, witch hunt. I think the perception of Donald Trump being in a witch hunt is somewhat valid pertaining to the documents case. How the president gets caught with documents and is not charged. Donald Trump is caught with documents and is charged. Now, there's a bit of nuance. Because it is. Hold on, wait. Trump is also charged with obstruction, but he is also charged with possession of the documents. Special counsel comes out. That is one of his charges.
I have the charges. Possession is not one of the charges. It's willful retention.
Yeah, him having the documents is part of the charge.
Right. No, it's not. It is refusal to return them.
But so the special counsel says going to prosecute Joe Biden because he's a kind old man with memory problems and all these weird adjectives as to why they're not going to prosecute him. Well, then why wouldn't they prosecute him? Because they didn't say he didn't.
Because they didn't find any because they did. No, they did. They didn't find any evidence.
That's not what the special report said.
I read the whole report, all 300 pages. They found no evidence that Joe Biden broke the law.
That he's a forgetful old man.
He was in reference to what the defense would be when Biden went to court, was that he would play an affable, likable, forgettable old man.
And that's
regardless. That's what the retention was because Herr also stated that Biden had a near photographic memory. So the reason that Herr did not charge him, for the very simple reason, is they did not find any evidence. They didn't find any evidence that he knowingly retained.
He knew he had documents. He had boxes of documents throughout his house.
How do you prove it? No, he had one box. No, it was in one box in the basement.
He just had a box of documents that he had nothing about.
He had a box of hundreds of documents, and intermingled in it were some classified documents.
Okay, so he didn't know anything about, that's where the standard of scrutiny to me is we're going to pretend.
You have to be able to go and prove that he willfully and knowingly retained them. That's what you have to prove.
He took them as senator and
There's no proof that he took them. There's no proof that he took them.
Private residence.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He has staffers moving documents. He has staffers moving documents on a regular basis. There's no evidence that he knew he had them.
Somebody in chat.
Okay, listen. I don't care. This is the critical thing, okay? Each law has qualifiers, and that qualifier means that you've qualified as committing this crime. Okay, there are elements to the crime. One of the elements of this particular crime is knowingly and willfully retaining them. There is no evidence that he either knew or willfully retained them. You have to have some form of evidence that corroborates it. So, for instance, in the event of Donald Trump, he signed an affidavit saying, I don't have these, but they also have him on audio tape and in a room with multiple other people that are going to be testifying, showing off the documents. That would indicate that he knowingly and willfully retained them. Joe Biden, if Donald Trump had him in a box in his basement, and they never were mentioned again, you couldn't charge him.
I get the point of view you're coming from. I just can't believe that. No, I can't believe that Joe Biden somehow didn't know he had these documents. I just don't believe documents land into your president.
So you can believe that all you want. You can believe that all you want, but numerous other boxes that were found at the Biden Penn Center, those boxes were moved there by a staffer. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they were put there by a staffer. And on top of this, right, Donald Trump could have avoided all criminal prosecution if he had cooperated with the investigation, but he didn't.
Do you have
Joe
a copy?
Biden did.
Do you have a copy of the report, Bubbles?
In front of me, no. My Mac's downstairs. I'll be honest with you. I have not read through the full report. I've read chunks of it. But what I did read about him being a old man and how a jury would see him as a old,
Right. That's
forgetful
like
man.
one blurb in about 330 pages of it.
It's a pretty good blurb though, because it puts in perspective.
But that's not the sweeping assessment that it makes.
It's the assessment that, okay, we just can't assume he knew that there were a box of documents in his house. I don't have a box
Again,
of
no.
documents in my house that I don't know about. If you pulled out,
That's an argument to the
box,
likely defense. That's not
Sure.
their assessment. That is not her judgment. But if you read it, it says the evidence does not establish that Mr. Biden or anyone else knowingly removed or retained the classified documents found at the University of Delaware. It goes on. There's multiple passages throughout this that would support that there is no indicator that Joe Biden or his team had intent to retain these documents.
but he did retain them because they were in his home for how many years? Who even knows?
Retaining requires intent. That's a difference. Having means that there is no intent.
They're in his
Retaining means that
house.
you
They're
know
in
that
his
you're in
house in a
possession of it
box.
and are refusing to give it up. So you've yet to
Right, so,
establish
like,
that he
He's
willfully
giving them up because
retained.
he got caught with them.
So this is the difference. No, he didn't. He allowed them to search. But this is the difference, right?
Because they
Is that,
found them.
let's say that someone had because he allowed them to search. That doesn't indicate, why would he allow them to search if he knew he was going to be breaking the law? That actually doesn't help your point.
Because there
But
was photographs.
if
near
someone-
his Corvette.
If someone, it doesn't
After he
matter.
told
Why
them to
would he
search
allow
them.
them to search if he had stolen documents that he knew about? That doesn't help your argument at all. But let's assume that someone buys a bike from someone off of Craigslist, okay? And that bike turns up to be stolen. And the cops show up, knock on the door, say, hey, that bike's stolen. They go, oh, I had no idea. And then they go take him to the bike. They take the bike away. Let's say for a second that that person knew that it was stolen property. How would you prove that in a court? You can't, right? Either A, they knew they stole it, or B, they didn't know they steal it. It's up to the law to prove it, right? Which is funny because this is what they all say. It's up to the law to prove it. If they find text messages saying, yeah, I got this stolen bike for real cheap, then they're knowing in possession of stolen property. That's intent to possess. That would make it a crime.
Yes, but he's taking these documents directly himself. He's not going through somebody off Facebook Marketplace and buying a box of
No,
them.
I just
he's
told
not.
you the
No, he's
evidence
not.
is not
He
established.
there's
Mr.
no
Biden
evidence.
knowing that we moved or retained.
So
There's no evidence that he did that. You're
it's more likely
presupposing
than not
that he did.
a staffer put it in his private
In
residence.
fact, it quite literally says that, yes. It is entirely plausible they were handled by a staffer, and Mr. Biden never handled the documents himself before they were filed among his papers. There's also no record of Mr. Biden's review of the documents before or after he donated them to the university. As a matter of historical context, there have been numerous incidents in which marked classified documents have been discovered intermixed with personal papers of former executive branch officials and members of Congress.
And how do you come to that conclusion other than just stating it? You just state that
Their
it's probably
precedent.
a staffer. You just say it's a staffer. But that's what makes it sound like a witch hunt. It's because you have this report that
Okay, let's look at this.
for the same stuff.
Let's just
Donald
put the
Trump
evidence
did.
up against it, okay? They found a box in Joe Biden's home that they don't know how it got there, where they found hundreds of documents, a handful of which was classified material, or classified documents, not classified material. A handful of which was classified documents, okay? There's no evidence that he took it there, no evidence that he knew he had it. Staffers regularly moved his documents around his wing of the White House when he was there with Obama. And you have no evidence whatsoever that he even knew he was in possession of the documents. On the opposite end of this, you have Donald Trump that was told by NARA to turn over documents. Okay. Joe Biden was never notified, by the way, the documents were missing. You have Donald Trump that was notified to turn over documents. He was given itemized lists. He was contacted by the DOJ, by representatives from NARA. His own lawyer told him he'd be breaking the law if he continued to hold on to them. He signed an affidavit saying he didn't have them. He showed them off to numerous different people. There's evidence that he knew he had the documents. Even after he signed the affidavit before his door was kicked in, he tried to destroy evidence to conceal his crime. The list goes on. Right. That in no way is comparable. That is no way comparable to Joe Biden saying, hey, yeah, if I have to come look.
Possession's 9/10 of the law. He had
Just
possession.
saying things.
That is not the charge. How many
He
times do we
had
have to
not-
tell you this?
There
That's
is
not.
no
That's
charge.
not. It's willful.
no-
Okay, then Mike
Jersey,
should be
appreciate the
incarcerated.
Cash App. Okay, so if you think that
Trump
Donald Trump
is
should
a
be charged then,
president.
and Donald Trump. So you think Donald Trump should be charged then?
Yes.
Okay, then
He
what are
should.
we arguing about? Right. What are we arguing about?
So shouldn't Joe Biden.
Hey guys, if you are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And if you want to support the channel, you guys can become a YouTube member on this channel, or preferably join the Patreon in the link tree in the bio. Also in the link tree is my TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, and the OK Hi YouTube, which I post news to on a regular basis. Enjoy the rest of the show. But you haven't just one simple thing. Can you show me without just saying, wait, because possession doesn't matter, right? It has to do with willful retention. Willful retention. Can you show me the evidence that shows that he willfully retained the documents? That's critical, because if you can't take that to a jury, you haven't fulfilled that element of the crime.
Well, apparently, according to what you just read me, we're just going to write off that he had zero clue they were there to begin with, and it was likely a staffer in his private home putting in documents.
That's what the evidence supports.
You have to provide that. Are they not the ones screaming innocent until proven guilty? That's what they're screaming, and then they're also like guilty.
You haven't read the report. How do you know the evidence doesn't support that?
You just read it to me. You
haven't read the report.
The report doesn't tell us why we think it's a staffer. It just says perhaps.
How do you know?
Because you just read it.
Right. Listen, because this is what's going to be presented. This is what's going to be presented. This is what's going to be presented in court. The defense is going to say he didn't even move them there. They can't prove at any point that he moved them there. He had staffers moving boxes in and out, and they were moving them out during the transition. Now, how are you as the prosecuting attorney going to say, no, he definitely knew he had them with zero evidence?
Not an attorney. Let it go to court.
I'm asking
what is an attorney going to say?
This is what Robert Hur is saying.
Then let it go.
If you're establishing guilt, it would matter to prove intent.
You have so Robert Hur. This is what Robert Hur brought up. This would be the defenses. Right here, I'll read it right here. Robert Hur is a prosecutor. He was the special prosecutor on behalf of this.
He's not a judge.
It doesn't matter. A judge doesn't determine. A judge doesn't bring arguments. A judge does not bring. Bro, stop talking. A judge does not bring an argument against the defendant. The prosecutor does. Nevertheless,
let it go to court and let it go to trial.
Stop talking. Nevertheless, we do not believe that this evidence is sufficient, as jurors would likely find reasonable. They're just advocating for unjustly and unduly charging political opponents.
Would likely.
Can you stop talking? Can you stop talking, man? Thanks. Nevertheless, we do not believe this evidence is sufficient, as jurors would likely find reasonable doubt for one or several reasons. Both when he served,
oh my God, shut up.
Both when he served as vice president and when the Afghanistan documents were found in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage in 2022, his possession of them in his Delaware home was not a basis for prosecution. As vice president and president, he had authority to keep them in his home. The best case for charges would rely on Mr. Biden's possession of the Afghanistan documents in his Virginia home in February of 2017, when he was a private citizen and when he told his ghostwriter he had just found classified material. Several defenses are likely to create reasonable doubt as to such charges. For example, Mr. Biden could have found the classified documents at his Virginia home in 2017 and then forgotten about them soon after. This could convince some reasonable jurors that he did not retain them willfully. When Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter about finding all the classified stuff downstairs, his tone was matter of fact. For a person who had viewed classified documents nearly every day for 8 years as vice president, including regularly in his home, finding classified documents at his home less than a month after leaving office would have been an unremarkable and forgettable event. Notably, the classified Afghanistan documents did not come up again in Mr. Biden's dozens of hours of recorded conversation with the ghostwriter. At the place where the Afghanistan documents were eventually found in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage in a badly damaged box surrounded by household debris, suggesting the documents might have been forgotten. And on top of that, there's absolutely no evidence that the documents he was referring to in Virginia are the same ones that were in his home in Delaware.
Well, in any position he was in, he can't declassify any of the documents. And it
doesn't have to do with declassification, but yes, he can.
What position?
Yes, he's a sitting president. He can declassify.
He could declassify when he was vice president, too.
Well, he didn't. So neither did Donald Trump, so they're in the same boat. But what you just read me said likely, quote, likely at least 3 or 4 different times on the basis of why they're not dropping charges, because a jury likely wouldn't see this.
Yes,
or a judge would likely not see that. So then why not let it go to court and let the justice system
Because he didn't
fairly
break,
rule?
because they cannot even prove. They don't have an argument. They have no argument to insinuate that he knew he had these documents. They have no argument. And on top of that, it would violate DOJ policy because Biden cooperated.
Okay, still had
So you
documents.
want them to bring
He's a
That is not the
haphazard
charge.
charges? Dude, having the documents isn't the charge. I'm not going to explain this to you again.
But it
I'm
is
not
for
going to explain
Donald
it to you again.
No, it again isn't the
No!
charge for Trump.
It is, because he has.
I swear
I
to
read
God.
to you what the charges
I
were.
swear to God. It is willful retention, not possession. Willful retention, not possession.
Sure, but Donald Trump had the power to declassify those. and that
Donald
was
Trump did not
No, he didn't.
declassify, and he admitted he did
didn't,
not
but that was his-
declassify.
correct, but that was his argument as to why he thought he should keep them.
He did
That
not
doesn't mean-
declassify
yeah.
them.
I understand that, but his argument is as president, he had the authority to declassify
He
them. so
stated
that's why.
after he was president that when he was president, he could have declassified them, and now he can't. That's what he said
I
in audio
understand
recording.
that. I understand that, and that is his basis as to
Dude,
why. He
like you're trying to
keep
pervert
them.
and contort the law to
I'm
go
not.
off of what.
I'm
Yes, you
telling
are.
you.
Yes, you are. You're like,
Oh,
oh, it's
Trump's
possession. It's not
inside.
simple possession. Donald Trump having the documents is not why he's being charged at all.
It's because he's not handing them back because he believes he shouldn't be. So it's going to go to court and it's going to do its thing. As it
It's
should have with
because
Joe
he
Biden.
willfully retained them.
Yes, and Joe Biden.
It's
willfully
because
had no clue
they
he
had to come
documents.
kick his door in. This is not a
Yep.
difficult concept.
No, but what is a difficult concept is trying to assume that Joe Biden has a box of documents he had no clue about.
It does not matter. You have to be able to prove that he knew he had them. And on top of that, the thing that her brings up, he did prove it. Prove it.
Okay,
Prove it.
What's the argument?
Prove it. What's the argument?
In a court of law, maybe you can't prove it. In my
Oh,
mind,
oh my
I know-
God,
Oh
I
my
can't
God!
believe
Then
it.
how
What
do you
the
prosecute?
Maybe you don't. I'm not. What I'm telling you right now is.
Can we move on?
Yeah, you can.
I
What a
think so.
colossal disaster
Failure.
you put on here. Like,
Yeah, just like Michael Cohen, he was a failure.
did you not watch what happened
How?
to Bob Costello?
Explain how he was.
Yeah, can you explain how he
Lied-
was?
What? How he lied about the phone call that happened?
That's not true. Prosecutors provided
He didn't
photos
lie.
to the jury that
Yeah.
showed that Schiller and Donald Trump were actually next to each other that day.
The 90-second phone call
Yeah.
about the 14-year-old.
He provided record of that.
Michael Cohen,
Correct.
the prosecution provided record that Keith Schiller and Donald Trump were next to each other that day. And there's
Yeah,
more
and
there's more that was not given to the jury that shows that they were there next to each other around the time the phone call took place.
Yes, the 90-second phone call about the 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, what does it matter? What does that matter?
Because it
Like,
had-
you don't even
because
understand the
it had
argument. You're just
nothing to do about the
regurgitating
payment.
talking
Because
points.
it had nothing to
doesn't
do
know.
about the payment to Stormy Daniels.
So there's a recording. You're aware of that, right?
I heard the recording of Michael
Right.
Cohen
So
talking about how he
Yes.
is going to orchestrate the payment, not Donald Trump.
Donald
they
Trump
never said-
knew about it. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump knew about it.
You want to play the recording on your live? Because
I
where in the
will. They were
recording-
talking about David Pecker and 150, representing 150,000. It
so
does
just
not
like
make
10%
sense.
for the
Listen
big guy.
for a second,
10% for the
okay?
big guy, right?
Listen for a
He's
second,
in
right? This is what I
line.
hate talking to these people
out of his
for,
depth.
because they just bastardize the facts and harbor on that they don't understand. The reality is that not only did the prosecution show that it's plausible that Michael Cohen talked to Donald Trump on that day, the context of that audio recording in reference to the 14-year-old stalker that he had doesn't make sense. What is Michael Cohen going to text Keith Schiller? I have this kid that keeps harassing me. Call me now. And then call him. And then within a minute and 30 seconds go, actually, I got it solved. No, that doesn't make any sense.
Where in the recording?
Also, Donald Trump hasn't even presented a counter narrative.
because the recording doesn't even have anything to do with the payment. It's about
What does it
company-
have to do with?
apparently setting up a company to funnel money, which is the argument that they're making, to funnel money to pay off this girl. But it was never mentioned Stormy Daniels. Donald
It doesn't
Trump
need to
said,
be.
"Oh, write a check, write cash," but there was
It doesn't need to
you're talking
be.
about context. There's no hard evidence.
It
at all
doesn't.
that
It doesn't need to be like a definitive. Oh, we got him
beyond a
moment.
reasonable doubt. I don't know.
There's not a reasonable doubt. That corresponds with the payments that were made to other people. That
There is
call
a
corresponds to David Pecker's involvement. That
Coming
call
from
is critical.
A felony. He's a felony liar. He got caught.
It doesn't
lying.
matter. So is
So is
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, but Donald Trump wasn't actually
He's
a
so-
self-admitted felon liar who got
I know,
caught.
because Michael Cohen,
Doing-
unlike Donald Trump, actually takes responsibility.
Yeah, he took responsibility lying to Congress. That's a responsible person.
On behalf of Donald Trump.
and then
To
going on
protect Donald
TikTok,
Trump. To protect
then
Donald
Cohen-
Trump. As Alan Weisselberg lied, as Bob
Yep.
Costello that testified after Cohen lied, as Keith Schiller has lied.
And that's why Cohen's been on the record on his own TikTok talking about every possible thing he would do to make sure Trump gets thrown in jail. And
That's
his
fine.
vendetta
That's
against
fine.
Trump.
Donald Trump
that-
set his following in base after Michael Cohen and put his family in danger. I would say the same. I would
Okay,
say the
because-
same.
Because he's a liar. He's a rat.
Do you have anything of
For Donald
substance to
Trump.
say, man?
No, because the recording has nothing
Okay,
to do
well,
with
he heard it
No,
here.
okay,
He
we
said he
moving on?
has nothing of substance.
All right.
Bro, you are out of your depth. This is way out of your range. This ain't open range. This is out of your range.
Ugh.
I'm just
Next.
tired of these low information. Michael Cohen's a liar. Yeah, no. The question is he telling the truth that everything that he said lined up? And then he said in Bob Costello to up Donald Trump's defense even worse than they already were. And Bob Costello, I don't know how anybody makes how anybody makes Michael Cohen seem more credible. Donald Trump picked him. Oh God.
And no one so far has been able to answer whether or not that was a reimbursement or was on retainer. If it's reimbursement, Donald Trump's